my name is Dr. Katherine Seeber. I am the founder and lead archaeologist at Carolina Community Archaeology, which is a small consulting firm here in Beaufort County, but we work in the Low Country in Georgia as well. Yeah, so in my whole life, my dad's a professor, my mom is a teacher, and libraries have been important to me since the very beginning of going on adventures outside my house. One of my first memories is going to the school library where my dad taught with my mom and finding books and records, because I'm a little bit old, to take home and learn about stories. So we have a small team and we have an office, but a lot of times for us, creatively, you have to move around a little bit in your space, because we're a small firm. We like to travel from library to library. So myself and some of my coworkers will often meet at libraries just to think through creative things. So we have a lot of projects that we work on that are about education. So for example, we're working on an exhibit here in the county and we need it to be English and Spanish. And so we need to meet here with people that can help us check our grammar, make sure our Spanish is really doing what it's needed to do. A lot of times we'll come to the library to work on bigger projects where we need to spread out and have a larger community of people. We do a lot of community-based work, and so instead of renting a room and that's not in the community, it's much better for us to have a room reserved here, and I can bring in all the community stakeholders that I have and sit down and think about, what do we want this project to look like? And we have all these resources around us that if in that moment I need to, I can say, well, let me go check the book. We have a local history section here. Other things are like when we need to meet with our local council people, like we have several times met on Hilton Head in the library there with some of the council people for the town of Hilton Head, just to make sure that we have a spot that's a good place to sort of spread out and think about how we're interacting with our local community and illustrating what we're doing. So the community space in the library is really important. It's a neutral zone. It's a place where everyone feels really comfortable because you're going to the library. And luckily we have a county library system that is so well maintained and so beautiful that we always feel very welcome. We always can ahead of time get our room ready. We have a meeting coming up here in this library this week. We have another one next week for another community matter. So it's a place that's really important to us. I have in the past for community meetings, but I've never used it yet. But it's on our list. So is Lebeco, and I've used Port Royal before. It's very beautiful. So we're going to make fully the rounds. But for example, like the Beaufort County Library not only is the seat of the archival stuff, which is really important to me. So I've been using that branch for years to do my archaeological research. It holds the keys to a lot of important stuff. But also when I have meetings with community members, instead of traveling out into the middle of nowhere, we have a spot where we can meet in downtown Beaufort, which is hard because normally it's very difficult to find places to park and places to meet. It's the perfect location and everyone feels really comfortable meeting there. Yes, whenever I have a special project, as an archaeologist, I work a lot on things that happen before written documents, but also in the early period of written documents here. So that's like the 1600s, the 1700s, the 1800s. And so I do have to go and ask Grace Cordell for help a lot. And this is like a long-standing thing. I've been going there for years and years and years looking for archival documents. And so I'm very lucky that it exists in my county. My job is to study human beings in the past. And one thing that I know about human beings in the past is that community was easier to have. It just was. Things were smaller, groups of people lived in smaller groups. There wasn't as many places to be, and there was a tighter, usually set of things that kept a group of people living in one spot together. We live in a place where there's a lot of people who've moved here. There's a lot of people that have left and come back. And we don't have a lot of third places, which is like the place that you go in the past. That's not your house. That's not your job. And for us in Beaufort County, this is one of the only places where people meet that is not work, not school, and not some sort of other obligatory function. So this is one of the only places that I feel like I see my community, and it's not about a job, or it's not about like going to the dentist, and it's not about grocery shopping, which is a really amazing thing to have in a place where a lot of people miss that. The library I went to as a very small child would have been a college library, because my dad was a college professor. And I remember getting my library card and feeling like an incredibly cool person, because I would have been 5. And I'm sure that like it was just a kid version, but you know, they made me show my ID, which would have been one I wrote myself. Right, it was just like a little piece of paper. And I got my library card, and I faithfully would get it stamped in whatever this was, 1995, to make sure I brought my books back, which I'm still really bad at doing on time, which has been a 30-year pattern. But I remember sitting in like a beanbag chair in the corner, in the stacks, would have been like in the corner, reading my first ever chapter book, which was The Swiss Family Robinson. And I liked it because the pages were smooth. But libraries have been really important to me. It's one of the best parts of being a researcher. I remember in undergraduate, sitting in the stacks, doing my research, and like having books piled around me. And I have pretty extreme ADHD. And so for me, having the physical objects in front of me is how I think. And so in the library, I have this great long history of, no matter what library it is, someone allowing me the space to have like 30 books where I can look at them and create what I need to create. And that happened in college, it happened in graduate school, and I'm very lucky that it happens here too. No one gets too upset when I have 30 books out, trying to pull stories from each of them to create a narrative about the past, which is awesome. The answer is funny for both of those, for me. The first answer, what am I currently reading, is the Lord Proprietor's records from South Carolina from like 1690, which is very random, but it's a collection of records about the 1690s South Carolina colony, and it's like legislative things. So it's like when someone's selling something, tax documents, wills. It'd be very boring if it was 2025, but because it's 1690 something, it's fascinating. But because the stuff that I read is so dense for work, I love historical fiction. I'm a huge fan of a romance novel, but historical fiction, if you can combine both of them, peak. I am currently rereading my favorite series, which is the Crystal Cave series, written by Mary Stewart. Highly recommend. It was written a while ago now, but it's a really good series that follows Merlin and throughout his life, and it's really historically accurate, and so for me it's like peak. But I've read it, probably this will be round number 7, I think, conservatively. Yeah, I think that we underestimate our library a lot. There is digital resources, you can watch TV shows, and you can watch movies, and you can do all the things that people pay a lot of money to do right now with your library card. But also there's something superhuman, super special about physically coming into a place and being surrounded by these stories. So each one of these books represents a story about a person, and one of the most human things is storytelling. It's one of the very first things archaeologists know that humans do. It's the first way we pass knowledge from one to the other. It's one of the first things that make us who we are. And so storytelling is incredibly important to our souls and our hearts, and reminding of us who we are. And sometimes we get really wrapped up, and everybody does. But if you come to the library and you take 20 minutes to find a story about somebody that might be like you, might be nothing like you, about something that's crazy, or about something that was real, every single time it's a win.